everybody. Oh my goodness, what a beautiful morning. Welcome to another awesome episode of Let's Ride with Coach Stroud. Hopefully I had my new music playing that my buddy Jeremy Dudman made for me. He sent it to me the other day. It sounds great. I'm super excited for it, and I just think it's so awesome that I have my own theme song. Like, it's just so cool. Let's ride with Coach Stroud. Yeah. Whew. It's a nice morning. I believe it's around 65 degrees, 65, 66, somewhere around there over here in Georgia. And I'm riding to work. Got another day of teaching ahead of me. Today's going to be a fun day for teaching. We're going to be focusing on reviewing for a test and playing some games and stuff like that. So it's going to be good stuff. Good times. Today, for this Moto vlog, I am, of course, riding here on El Oso Moto. I want to talk to you guys about why I joined the Army and why I decided to serve my country and what all that entails. You know, my time in service, what I did. Excuse me. If I sniffle a little bit, I'm sorry. The pollen in Georgia is a little bit intense, as always. And it messes with my allergies really bad. But anywho, we are off. I'm on my way to work. Yay! It's for my drive, my ride into work takes me about just under an hour. Coming from Lilburn all the way down to Covington, Georgia. So some people have asked, students have asked, why do I live so far away? Well, it's because I'm not the biggest fan of certain schools, and I choose to take myself out of that situation and go somewhere else, and that's what I do. So I ride or drive about an hour away to teach those kids down there because, I just love them. They're good kids. Good kids. All right. Oh, man. I thought I was going to make that green light there. Bummer. So now I got to wait. But now I got to wait. So let's say, before I get into talking about why I serve, let me just let you know what's going on in my world. Got news yesterday that Atlanta United and the Mercedes-Benz is opening up their stadium to full capacity, so I'm super excited about that. So I might have some more soccer vlogs coming up. Maybe. We'll see. Got a couple books I need to do reviews on, and hopefully get some more writing in, which I'm super excited about. I love writing. And my windshield is fogging up. Let me open that up again. Today's Thursday, actually, I should say. Thursday, August 29th, April 29th of 2021. And I'm ready for this day and this week to come to an end so that I can enjoy some writing. I mean, I love teaching, don't get me wrong. I love teaching, I love working with these kids. But man, we're starting to hit burnout area, for teaching and jobs and whatnot. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom past this guy right here. Woo! Bye, guy. Thank you. Wave. Thank you, buddy. So he didn't have to get over for me like that. That's nice of him. Alright, so why I served. Why did I serve in the United States Army? Why I chose to give up my life for many, many years. And I just want to start by saying, yes, that's exactly what you're doing. For those of you who are like, no, you're not giving up your life. Yes, you are. You give up your life to your country for X amount of years of that contract that you sign. Because when you are in the military, you belong to the military. For those of you who are strong believers in family first, as I am, you have to understand that when you're in the military, your family does not come first. Your country comes first. The Army comes first. The Marine Corps, whatever branch you are with, they come first. They supersede everything. So I believe it all started back when I was in kindergarten. And I know that sounds weird, but in kindergarten we had career day. And I went to school as a Marine. I wanted to be a Marine when I grew up. And that stems from my dad. My dad was in the U.S. Marine Corps. And I looked up to him, as most young kids do. And I love the fact that he did something like that. And from all the stories that he had told me, of course, he had told me like very basic stories that my little mind could comprehend. It just sounded like a life full of adventure and awesomeness. So the seed was planted in my head about service to my country from a very young age. And again, I don't believe that was my father's intent. Like, oh, let me go ahead and get my kid primed and ready to go into the military. I think he was just, doing his fatherly duty of sharing information, sharing stories. So I went to kindergarten career day as a U.S. Marine. And yeah, I always had it in my head that I was eventually going to serve my country. No matter what job I was going to end up doing or college or whatever, I was going to serve the military. And I got to be honest, college, when I had my friends talk about college and my brother talk about college was... Oh, goodness gracious, I am so sorry. Wow, sorry about that. I'll see if I can't get that cough out of there somehow. My brother was very big into going to college, and I just wasn't. It wasn't in my head. I had no desire to continue my education. I had a hard time in school. I had a very rough time of it. And was not interested in pursuing extracurricular education at the time, which is hilarious because now I spend all my days in a school as a teacher. Haha. That's also an interesting story in itself as how I became a teacher and why I wanted to become a teacher, but I'll save that for another day. But I and I also had this self-doubt at the same time when I was in high school that I wasn't good enough for college. I wasn't smart enough for it. And when it came time to graduate high school, my dad told me, like, hey, you're an adult now. You're going to have to start paying rent. You're going to have to make a choice. And he told me, and he might not remember this, but he told me you have two choices. You either A, go to college, or B, you start your own company. And I was like, start my own company? Like, why can't I just get a job somewhere? Well, I was working at a mom and pop pizza shop at the time, and I'm like, come on now, it's an okay job. But I definitely was not making enough money at all to pay rent. And I guess that was my dad's way of trying to teach me, my mom and dad both, trying to teach me the responsibilities of making an actual income and living, and working part-time at a pizza joint was not going to do it. So my mom was working at a dentist office at the time, and they needed somebody to come and clean up and stuff like that. So I started doing that. I would go to her dentist office in the middle of the night, and I would clean for them. And I was like, all right, well, this is my business. This is the job. I'm going to start a business. And I did. I started a business cleaning service called One Man Army Cleaning Services. And it's funny that I chose the name One Man Army. So how I got the name was there was a Our Lady Peace song called One Man Army that I absolutely loved. And it just saying to me, I can do the job. One man can do the job of an entire army. And so I went my dad told me if I'm going to do this, I have to do it right. I have to get a business license. I have to get insured, all that stuff. And so I did that. I went and I got a business license. I got insured. I, made a bunch of business cards, made a bunch of portfolio things, and I went around to businesses and I handed them out. And I got a couple of contracts, some small contracts. Like I got a contract for cleaning a local electronics store, which was really weird, to be honest. And I gotta be honest, those people were super shady, and they tried every way they could to not pay me. And I eventually had to break that contract because of lack of payment, because I did a bunch of jobs for them that they wouldn't pay for. And it's not because I did a bad job, it's just they just didn't want to pay because they were shady. That being said, I'm working this cleaning business. I'm making money. I'm doing all right, but I also had to get another side hustle going on, and I was hired on as a janitor at the local DeKalb Peachtree Airport, which everybody calls PDK for Peachtree DeKalb Airport. So it's funny. So it's PDK, but DeKalb Peachtree. And I worked at an aviation place there called Epps Aviation, and they were very good people. I enjoyed very much working for them. Very, very good people there. My boss was a good guy, very good guy. His name's Kenny. Haven't seen him in a long time, but hopefully Kenny's doing all right. But anyways, I was working there, not really loving life. I would clean during the day, and then when the day was over, I would go to my other business that I ran called One Man Army and clean at night. And then on the weekends, just to kill time sometimes, if I wasn't hanging out with my buddies, I started working a security job as well at the local arena in Gwinnett. And, I'm doing all right. I end up moving out of my parents' house, and I'm in an apartment, and I end up living in this apartment by myself, and I was the only kid that I knew. And I say kid because I thought I was an adult at the time, but in all honesty, I was not an adult, mentally not an adult. But I was doing well enough. I was able to pay for my own apartment, pay for all my insurances, pay for everything. I was doing fine financially. I wasn't making a killing, but I was getting by, just me. But let's be real, and this is not a slight to people that clean for a living, but here I was, 18 years old, 19 years old, about to hit 20 years old, and I'm scrubbing toilets for a living, and I was absolutely miserable. Yes, I worked for a company. Yes, I worked for myself in my other job. One Man Army was originally like a full-time position, but it eventually shifted to part-time. After I ended a few contracts, I decided to just focus on one contract and keep that one going. And it was doing really, really well. I was making enough to where I was doing fine, but I was so unhappy. Something was definitely missing from my life, and I decided I needed a change. I needed to do something with my life. Goodness gracious, I keep getting stopped. I left a little bit later than I normally do for work, and I remember now why I tend to leave at a certain time. Because I get hung up and, when I leave later. So alright, here we go. Alright, so I decided I needed to do something with my life, and it dawned on me, like, you've never, over the past couple of years, you've forgotten about your dream or the thoughts of joining the military. And I'm like, all right, let me go look into this. So I went to all like outside of our mall, our local mall, we had a sort of strip mall. Oh goodness, I'm so sorry. They said this pollen is killing me. Anyways, outside of a mall, we had a strip mall, and all 4 of the major branches were represented there. We had a recruiter for Air Force, Navy, Marine Corps, and the Army. So I started doing some research. I started looking into some stuff. I started looking into what kind of job I would want to work in the military. And I was very into photography at the time. And it's funny because in high school, I had told an English teacher that I wanted to do writing for a living as well. When she'd asked me, like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I'm like, I want to be a writer. So, started looking into these jobs. Talked to the Navy first, because they were my least likely that I was going to join, so I figured I'd go and talk to them first. Talked to them, wasn't really satisfied with what I heard, and left it at that, moved on. Went to the Air Force, and I honestly, and I've got nothing against the Air Force. Air Force, if anything, they're, great branch to join. And nothing against the Navy either, But so I went and talked to the Air Force, and I basically told them, I'm like, hey, I want to be, if I join the Navy, I want to be guaranteed that I'm stationed at Travis Air Force Base. And the reason why it is because my grandparents lived right outside the gate of Travis Air Force Base, literally probably about 3 or 4 miles away. So maybe not right outside, but close enough. And I'm like, that would be awesome if I could go and live out there, be in the Air Force, see my West Coast family that I don't get to see very often. That would just be awesome. We got cousins and aunts and uncles out there, and of course, my beloved grandparents. Well, they looked at me and said, we can't guarantee that. And I said, is there any way it could? I've heard before that you can guarantee things in contracts, in your initial contracts. And they looked at me and said, we're not willing to make that guarantee. And I said, thank you very much, and I moved on. And just like that, my venture or look into the Air Force was done. Because in all honesty, the Air Force wasn't calling to me. And again, this is no slight against the Navy, no slight against the Air Force. So next was the Army and Marine Corps. Now, Army, I wasn't as interested in joining. I was more interested in joining the Marine Corps because that's what my dad did. So I went to the Army first, and I started talking to them. And they convinced me, they're like, I told them outright, I'm like, look, I'm going to be doing this, and I'm talking to all the branches, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, well, if you're going to do that, let's go ahead and take your ASVAB. And they went ahead and just stuck me in the room to take the ASVAB. I didn't get to study, I didn't get to do anything. They're like, look, if you score high enough on it, you don't have to worry about it. He goes, but if you don't, then, we'll give you time to go study, and then you can kind of go from there. Well, apparently I did really well and scored. I don't want to give away my score, but it was over the 100 mark. Over the 100 mark. And so I qualify, or they looked at me and they're like, that's great, and I'm like, well, what do you have to score to get in? And they're like, well, for infantry, you got to score 33. And I'm like, goodness gracious, all right, I'm doing all right. So I was like, nah, I don't need to study and take it again. That was my first mistake. I should have totally done that. Now, I don't want to say mistake. Let me go back. It's not a mistake, okay? Because I scored well enough, and I got the job I wanted, so I can't really complain. I don't want it to sound like I was complaining, but when I taught high school and I had kids talking to me about the military, I always told them, like, to go out and study for the ASVAB, no matter what your recruiters told you, to still go and study for that ASVAB test. Get it, take the time to actually do it. And I firmly believe in that. The higher you score, the better options for jobs that you get. And, less likely of chance you're going to get turned down for certain jobs that you would want. So I took the ASVAB, scored over 100, and again, I'm sorry, I don't want to give away my overall score because I don't know, I just don't, but I did well. I can't remember if the ASVAB is out of 130 or 140 points, to be honest. I don't remember. I think it's 140, but I did fine. So the Army was like, all right, you did pretty great. You qualify for all these jobs here. What are you interested in? And I said, well, I want to do photography. I know that's an option. Sorry, I got to raise my shield. Got very cloudy there. Said I want to do photography. I know that's an option. I want that to be my main focus, photography. And they're like, well, we have this public affairs, that you could do. And I'm like, all right, what's that? And they're like, well, you're a journalist. And I said, not only do you do photography, but you'll also be a writer. And I was like, for bam! And I had looked into that job beforehand, but I hadn't really, I was focusing more on the photography side of stuff at the time, and I hadn't really been thinking a whole lot about the writing side, even though, again, I had a lot of self-esteem issues about not being good enough for things. And I gotta be honest, my English teacher, when I told her I wanted to be a writer, she laughed. She literally laughed out loud. And, as a teacher now, I understand why she did. And I don't think that at the time I was really offended, and I held that that ill feeling towards her for a long time. But as I've gotten older, as I've matured, as I've taught, I realized where it came from, and it's, and that there was, in all honesty, probably no real malice behind it. So, new shoes. That guy's thing says new shoes. That's awesome. Ah, crap. Well, dang it. Oh well. No, stuck at the red light now. So I looked into public affairs, and I was like, all right, this sounds really cool. And they're like, let's sign you up. And I'm like, now hold on, before I do, I'm like, I get it. I get that you want to do that, I said, I still want to go and talk to the Marine Corps. And they're like, well, why would you want to do that? They're trying to sell me, and of course, it's typical recruiter stuff. That's what they're supposed to do. They're trying to convince you to join them and nobody else. So I don't, there's no fault in that whatsoever. But I stuck to my guns, and I'm like, look, I want to go talk to the Marine Corps. And they're like, all right, go ahead. So I go and talk to the Marines, and I make an appointment with them and go and see them. And I told them, I'm like, hey, I know one of my friends from high school came through here. And they're like, oh yeah, what's your friend's name? So I told them, and they're like, oh, you associated with him? And I was like, well, yeah, he was a friend. Come to find out that my friend got busted for drugs in the Marines and got booted out. And I was like, oh man, now they've got this, now they think I'm affiliated with this guy. I'm like, that stinks. But I'm like, all right, well, and then I remember saying to them, like, well, I'm not that good of friends with them. But anyways, so I am at this time, I'm talking to the Marines, and I say, like, hey, the Army has offered me this job, and I really like this concept. I want to do this. I think this would be great. It's right up my alley. I told them my ASVAB scored. They're like, oh, that's wonderful. But, hey, bud. But they're like, but we'll tell you what job you get. And I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, your first job's to be a Marine. I'm like, okay, yeah, I get that. Just like in the Army, it's soldier first. And they're like, upon you becoming a Marine, then we'll tell you what job you have. And I'm like, no, I don't want that. And it was no offense to the Marine Corps. I still have great respect for the United States Marine Corps. They are some of the baddest military men, soldiers, whatever you want to call it, Marines out there. Once a Marine, always a Marine. Semper Fi. I love it. My dad was a Marine. He is a proud Marine still. Because even when you leave, you are still a Marine. I love that. I've got great pride for them. But I didn't like what they were telling me, especially when the Army calls me up and says, hey, we'll offer you a bonus. And I was like, oh. So I tell the Marine Corps, hey, the Army just literally offered me a bonus. And they're like, we can't do that. And I said, well, can you promise to station me somewhere I want to be stationed? They said, we can't do that. And I was like, all right, so it's not looking good for the Marine Corps right now. And then the ice that sealed it all over, you know, like that broke the ice, whatever, is they asked if I had any tattoos below my elbows. And I said yes. And they're like, oh, well, we'll have to get a waiver for that. And that just irritated me. That irritated me a lot. And I'm like, all right, I'm done. You can't promise me. You can't put it in contract, you know, job I want to have, where I want to be stationed. Then I'm going to go to the Army. Now, I know some of you are probably thinking like, well, you know, Coach Stroud, you're being a little bit selfish there. And the answer to that is, you know, like, Coach Stroud, you're being selfish. You know, you're saying that you need to join and you give up your life for your country for this amount of time. You need to do as they tell you and help out your country. Yes, you're 100% right. But what you're missing, and what other prior service people who are watching this might recall and remember, is when you serve, you still have to look out for your best interests, for you as well, and for your possible future, your possible family that comes. You have to look out for yourself. You have to self-advocate. Yes, you are giving up your time, your life for for the Marine Corps, for the Army, whatever. But in return, you still have to get those little things for yourself. So I told the Marine Corps, thank you very much. I appreciated their offer, or their kind words, and their talking with me, but I was going to go ahead and move on to the Army. So I didn't sign up right away. You know, I spent some time thinking about it. I talked with my parents a little bit. Told them I was interested in joining the service. Of course, my dad, you know, I believe, he never really outright said, I want you to be a Marine. He just told me to go and get what I needed to get for myself. You know, go do what I needed to do for myself. My mom was, of course, very scared because at this time, I guess I never said what date it was. It was, at this time, it was 2004, late 2004, and the United States was in Iraq. And a friend of ours had just gone over and come back, and I was talking with him and all this other stuff, and he was giving me stories about what Iraq was like, and you know, it sounded pretty scary, to be honest, but that was something that I was willing to accept, you know, that if I joined, there is a really good possibility, almost 100% possibility, that I'd be going over to war. That didn't faze me as much. Naivete of not understanding, maybe, but also to the point where it was like, you know, if it happens, it happens. If I have to go, then I have to go. I want to serve my country. This drive and desire that had been in me since I was a kid to serve was coming out full force. And it seemed like everything else at that time didn't matter. I just wanted to go and serve. My friends had moved on to college. A lot of them were in different states, and, you know, it's like, it's just the perfect time for me to go. So I went back and I talked to the Army some more. I discussed things with them. I got the job that I wanted, which was a public affairs specialist. I was going to get to be a journalist. I got to write news stories, take pictures, all that stuff. I got my bonus, so I got a nice little added extra padding to go in the wallet for joining up. It wasn't a whole lot. It wasn't as much as like certain jobs would get you, like EOD, infantry, things of that nature. But, you know, got a nice little bit of money to go in my pocket. And it's cool because I actually did ask. I was like, hey man, is there a bonus involved with this? And at first they're like, no, there's not. And then eventually they're like, okay, we got it approved. We can get you a bonus. And I was like, sweet. So I joined. I signed the paperwork. I went down to the MEPS facility, and That was when they tried to, now, the military can be a little bit sticky with certain things. They tried to tell me, hey, this job's full. At one point, they're like, this job's full. Let's get you this instead. Look at these other jobs you could have. And I was like, no. I said, I'm sorry. This is the job I was promised. This is the job that's in the contract that I'm going to sign. And I will not sign the contract unless that's the job I'm getting. And after a little bit of negotiating with them, I ended up getting more money in my bonus. A little bit more. And I signed my contract to do 5 years in the military. And ultimately, that's what I did. I did 5 years in the military, got my little bonus, nothing fancy, and was a public affairs specialist. I shipped out, or not shipped out, I left for basic training January 25th of 2005, right after Christmas time. And it's funny, because at that time I had long hair, and I got it all cut off and stuff like that before going in, because I didn't want to give the barbers there the pleasure of shaving my long hair off. I met some friends, immediately met some people that were super cool on our bus ride. It was really funny, because I was put in a van, I was sent to Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, which at the time was just Hartsfield International Airport. And I waited for a bunch of other people to come in on airplanes, where we then boarded a bus, Greyhound type bus, and we took off for, say hey bud, he didn't wave, oh well. Got on a Greyhound bus, and I ended up driving right by the exit that I was at before, and I was just like, wow, that was awesome. So I drove right by the recruiting station, like literally right next to it, and I was like, hey guys, I was just here a couple hours ago, what's up? It's just kind of funny. I'm heading down. We got there in the middle of the night, Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and that's where I did my basic training. And I met some of the coolest people in the world at Fort Jackson. Some of the most absolutely awesome people. People that I've stayed in contact with. Not as much contact as I wish I could have, or wish we still had. I wish we had a little bit more contact, but that's my fault too. It's not, we all are living our lives and doing things, and it's hard to keep up with people sometimes. But through the miracles of Facebook, I'm still in contact with some of those people, which is great. Ooh, that house is pretty. They've been building that house for the whole year I've been riding this route. And it's gotten together and looks beautiful. And they're clearing out land to build another one right there. Anywho, met some of the coolest people ever. Was very lucky to, in my opinion, to have these people in my life at that time, because I was going through some stuff also, some other personal stuff that I will not get into. Some bad things that had happened, and these guys, this group of gentlemen, they did a great job of pulling me out of this rut, and I love them to death for it. And I am forever grateful to them, because during that rut, that was some hard stuff there. Going down the road. So I'm at Fort Jackson, and I'm realizing that this story is going to take a while. I thought I could do it all in like one trip, and I'm realizing it's going to take maybe a few trips. So I guess this is part one of why I served in the U.S. Army. A motorcycle Ryker vlog. Da da da. But while I was at Fort Jackson, I absolutely loved basic training. Oh my gosh, it was so cool. I enjoyed it so much. Again, I love the people I was with. The vast majority of people were great. I had some Now, because I was a few years older at this point, I was in a platoon with kids that were fresh out of college or fresh out of high school. A couple people that were in their senior year of high school and were going to basic training and then going back to finish their senior year in the Army National Guard. Things like that. And I noticed that I was on a different level than the vast majority of the people that I was there with. I had some life experience. Even though it was only a few years, I had been living on my own, taking care of my own self, going through hardships, staying in touch with my family, keeping the relationships with them up. I had life experience over a lot of these kids. And that put me into certain situations and gave me certain respect from certain drill sergeants and others, and the way I carried myself, the way I chose to carry myself and handle things, just put me in a good position, which was awesome. I did very, very well in basic training. One of my favorite stories, and this will probably be the last story I tell, and then before I start part 2, but one of my favorite stories from basic training is we were on the bayonet course, and it had been a rough week, really, really hard. I hadn't been able to call home in a long time, and I just emotionally, dead animal, just hit it, crap. Oh well, that happens. Again, that's the sad part about the Ryker is when, you got the 3 wheels, it's almost positive that you're going to hit something like that's in the road like that. And I tried to get it to where it would come through this one area right here where there's just enough room that you could pass through, but that thing was just too wide. Anyways, we were on the bayonet course, and our drill sergeant said, whoever gets through this course, whoever is the toughest, has the best enthusiasm, the most fire and drive and determination, just yada, 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 you're going to get a 5-minute phone call tonight. And I was set. Challenge accepted. Here we go. I got this. I was motivated. I needed to talk to my mom. I needed to hear some good news from home. But yeah, I needed to talk to my dad too, but I think at that time I was really, really missing my mom. And I know it sounds cheesy, but we all still love our mothers, hopefully. Most of us do. I still do. I needed to talk to my mom. So, I was motivated, highly motivated, truly dedicated. And I took to that bayonet course. Now, basically what it was these like tires stacked on each other that looked like with plywood. They painted them blue, and it looked like like a human body type thing. The way they stacked them one on top of each other, and then the head and stuff. And so the thing was, is you go in with your rifle. You take the butt of your rifle and you hit left, then you come back and hit right, and then you turn and then you stab the bayonet into the center part of the chest. Well, I go to the first one, boom, boom, stab, and I'm so amped up that I like stumble, and I'm going to the next one, and I'm swinging for the arm on the next one, but I'm about to fall. I'm falling at this point, and so seeing that I'm gonna fall, and it's gonna be embarrassing, I took my right arm, and I just held that rifle, and with all the force I could muster, just stabbed it forward, and I broke the plywood in the chest. It shattered, it popped, it, like, whatever you want to call it. The force, my falling and the driving of my arm forward with all the energy and muscle I could muster, I broke the crap out of that plywood. And yeah, that plywood had been stabbed multiple times. It had been weakened. I'm not even gonna act like, oh, look how strong I am. I did this, blah blah blah. No, I'm well aware that that plywood had been tampered with, to say. But it shattered, and I don't know what happened. I don't remember what happened. I mean, like, I don't want to say I blocked out, but like, that's not it. From what I remember, it broke. Pieces went flying. I ran it, like, I'm diving at this point. I land on the ground, and my drill sergeant, I get up and I walk and I'm done. I move over to the side and I'm finished. That's the end of it for me. And I'm like, I'm so disappointed. I'm so upset. Like, this was my chance and I blew it. And now on top of that, I just broke the center of this thing. Like, and my drill sergeant came up to me and he's like, and I'm not going to swear because I got students that watch, my YouTube videos, but he just started dropping like bomb after bomb, and he was amped. I mean, the dude was lit. He was on fire. He was so, wow. And he's like, you obliterated that person. You obliterated the enemy. It was just incredible. His enthusiasm, and this drill sergeant that I had was very hard-nosed, didn't laugh, didn't smile, nothing. He was the bad cop in the good cop, bad cop situation to a T. And to have him come and get up in my face, screaming at me, poking my chest, shoving me and stuff, but it was all out of encouragement and praise. I was so, I was beside myself. And he's like, and then he stops and dead-eyed, serious face, looks at me and goes, "You get your 5 minutes." And I said, "Thank you, drill sergeant." And I started moving over to where everybody else was to line back up. And I'm not gonna lie, tears started pouring down my face. I didn't like boo-hoo, like, ooh, but like, tears just started coming down my face. And these were tears of just stress and frustration and desire and the need and the need to talk to my mother. I needed to talk to my mom. I just needed to hear my mom's voice. And I love my dad. Y'all seen a lot of videos of me and my dad together and stuff, but I needed my mom at that moment. And a soldier man needs mommy. And the fact that I was going to get to go back to the barracks and call my mom meant the absolute world to me. And I cried. And nobody saw. I'm standing in line and we were all sweating, so my tears just blended in with the sweat. But, that's, and I'm not ashamed to say that I broke down at that point. I just needed it. But yeah. So I think that's going to be it. That's going to be it for this round. This is why I served in the Army, part 1. I'm shocked that I have more to tell. Like, I didn't realize this was going to take me so long. But thank you people for watching. I appreciate it. Please, if you're a military veteran, please let me know down in the comments. Thank you for your service. I appreciate it. Until next time, guys, please like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. And I'll say deuces. We are out. Peace. Thanks, guys.